I'm an American, and I'm going to be watching the Premier League for the very first time. Let me explain. So it's going to be a watch along. First of all, I can't show you the actual game while I watch it, unfortunately, because YouTube will just nuke my channel into oblivion. If you want to know where I'm going to be live, it's going to be on YouTube and Twitch. And if you happen to miss the streams, no problem. You can always go to my channel page, okay? And you can always click the playlist tab. If you click the playlist tab, you have the stream VODs over here. I might make a playlist just for the Premier League watch-alongs, but basically, you'll be able to find all the VODs over here. Just in case you guys don't know me, my name is Rednu. I'm an American. My primary hobbies and interests revolve like pretty much entirely around gaming and anime. I never played sports. I never watched sports. I don't have family that watch sports. So I've never been into sports ever in my life. And so you might be wondering, like, why am I going to be watching the Premier League then? If you want the long story version of it, which I think it was a fun and entertaining video, you could take a look at my YouTube channel, all right? The video over here, it says, I left anime horse girls for 500 hours of the worst football manager ever. This video pretty much explains everything as to why. As the title says, right? It's Football Manager. The short version is, I got into Blood Bowl, which is like a strategy board game themed around American football. And in that board game, there are a lot of tactical concepts in that game. Some of these concepts include screening, include spatial control, includes things like tactical gravity around a player. I thought like, wow, this is like chess, except people don't play it, right? And so I thought, wait, there's another game that does have these concepts as well, but a lot more people play it, and that game is football. Football is, to me, in my eyes, right, a big real-time strategy game that is also really fun and engaging and super cool to watch. And so the bridge from me in my fantasy land of gaming into the real world of football ended up being Football Manager, because in Football Manager, what can I do? I can control the players, right? As well as like manage them anyway. I can set up the formations, and I am in complete charge of the tactics, right? And so that was my reason for getting into Football Manager, and that is the reason right now why I am going to be watching the Premier League, because now I'm a fan. Because I took what I knew about Football Manager into my enjoyment of the FIFA World Cup. And it turns out the FIFA World Cup, the world's most played sport, turns out to be pretty entertaining. It's really fun. I also wanted to make this video because I get a lot of questions in chat whenever someone does pop in. It's just like, hey, who are you rooting for, right? Because apparently I left it out in that video, unfortunately. But essentially, the team that I'm going to be rooting for the Premier League is Aston Villa. It is going to be Aston Villa, and the reason why is very, very simple. In Football Manager, on my journeyman save, in my, 10, 12 years of managing this save, right? I was hired by Aston Villa. This is not the men's team of Aston Villa, however. It is the women's team of Aston Villa. And this was my whole plan kind of going into this, kind of going into Football Manager. My whole plan was like, I'm going to do this journeyman save. I'm going to rack up my reputation. I'm going to earn achievements. And then I'm going to coach in Europe, right? I'm going to see who hires me. And that's going to be the team I support. And the funny side story to this is that I was almost not going to root for Aston Villa. The first Women's Super League team I actually interviewed for in this game was actually Chelsea. Chelsea was actually the first team that I interviewed for. And I was a pretty good runner-up, at least, or a good candidate to take over this team. However, Chelsea picked up Barbara Bonancia, who was the head coach for Aston Villa. So they picked up Barbara from Aston Villa, and then Aston Villa was like, oh, well, we don't have a head coach. And so they hired me. And that's basically the whole story of why I'm going to be rooting for Aston Villa, which actually I don't really have a lot of complaints about. I haven't seen them play ever, and we are going to be seeing them play for the first time ever, and that's going to be on Sunday, 6 a.m. What I actually think is really cool and kind of almost poetic in a way, because my favorite World Cup team is Japan, right? Because I'm a weeb. I love anime, and so I rooted for Japan during the World Cup. The funny thing about Aston Villa is that they just picked up a very prominent Japanese player, a very cool Japanese player, maybe is a better way to describe him. And that is Zion Suzuki. Zion Suzuki is going to be playing for Aston Villa. And I was like, what? That's cool, because just coincidentally, one of the only FIFA World Cup tweets I ever did involved Zion Suzuki. I was watching Brazil versus Japan, and I was watching, and there was this shot, right, from Vinny Jr. into Zion Suzuki, and I thought this was just such a funny meme. I thought this was just such a cool highlight, and the close-up that they managed to get on his face, I was like, oh my god, that's so funny. I remember Zion Suzuki very, very well. The Brazil versus Japan was such a wild trip, by the way. I honestly thought that Japan could tie it up. I mean, I don't think you could really blame me. I mean, yes, Brazil is Brazil, and they had like super strong players. But like Japan got an early goal like 29 minutes in, and Brazil only evened it out like in the second half. During the first half, everyone was like, "Oh my god, Japan can do it. Japan can win, right? Or tie, right?" And then 56 minutes, dang. Okay, well, they can still tie. And for the majority of the rest of the game, right, that was the truth until Martinelli, 90 minutes plus 5 in the injury time, was able to put in another goal, right? But that being said, this match had plenty of really cool saves and highlights, and I remember it very vividly from Zion Suzuki. I was like, dang, this guy is really sick. A very, very cool save from Suzuki. Boom. Get that out of here. And then watch this. This was wild. I looked at this. I was like, what is happening? Such a chaotic scramble. But he actually was able to hold it. This one, he let through, unfortunately. And yeah, this is the tweet. The meme. Dude. They gotta show the close-up. Vinny almost got this shot in, but just a touch from Suzuki, and you have this this crazy funny close-up that they were able to get of him. Wow, just what a cool highlight, I thought. And so to see Aston Villa coincidentally pick him up, I did not plan for this in particular. You know, I was like, okay, I'm gonna root for whatever team hires me in either the Women's Super League or the Premier League. And that ended up being Aston Villa, and they ended up picking pretty much like one of, if not my favorite player. And that's, you know, obviously coming from me as someone who hasn't really watched a lot of football, right? I've never been interested at all. But that I thought that was just like, whoa. Aston Villa, though, I do think is a really cool team to kind of root for from what I've learned talking with my friends. Because Aston Villa actually kind of reminds me of my saves, right? And I'm sure like it reminds everyone of a lot of different stories in football. Okay, it's such a big sport with such a long history, right? But Aston Villa, basically they were having a very, very bad time with their coaches Smith and Gerrard. Gerrard especially, he dropped the ball at the beginning of 22-23 season. He got the win rate down to like 18%, which is crazy, right? Super, super bad. And so they canned him. They brought in Danks. Danks was like I believe a stand-in head coach, right? So he was 1 win, 1 loss. And then they actually brought in this guy, Emery. And Emery, in the same season, 22-23, was able to basically save Aston Villa and allowed them to finish in 22-23 at 7th place when they were like on way to relegation. Which I thought like, whoa, that's sick. That this guy actually just like, he saved the club. And it's reminiscent of my own journeyman save and probably a lot of yours too, where you kind of come in and rescue a club from the clutches of relegation, right? And so like, whoa, I mean, that's cool. It's a really cool story. And since then, he's been doing pretty good. He is hovering around 50% win rate, I guess, on the last 2 years. But I think that's still pretty good. It's not like amazing, right? But to have 50% win rate, you have to understand that you also have draws in there. And so like I think that's pretty fantastic personally. We have like what, 4th place, 3rd place on the table. That's insane. I think right now, from everything my friends tell me, everything like chat tells me, whenever they pop their head in, they say, hey, Aston Villa is actually a pretty cool team to root for. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Catch me live on YouTube and Twitch. Again, if you want to see my VODs, it is scuffed, okay? Like my first VOD covering the Premier League, it is scuffed, all right? But I am here, right? And if you skip me kind of setting up in the beginning, I do have the FOT mob brought up, and you can see my live reaction to the entire game. And if you just wanted to watch with someone, that's me. I'm there, right? Anyway, that's gonna be it. Like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.